What if that dusty penny sitting in your kitchen drawer could be worth thousands today? What if it was never meant to exist? Hold that thought, because one ordinary-looking penny from 1965 has become the center of whispers, myths, and heart-wrenching missed fortunes. It was 1987. A retired Navy veteran named George was clearing out his father's estate in rural Ohio. Among stacks of old war medals and faded photographs, he found a mason jar filled with pennies, the kind most people would toss in a Coinstar machine without thinking twice, but one coin caught his eye. It was darker, worn, yet sharp in certain details. Dated 1965, but something about it felt off. He tucked it into his pocket without a second thought. 2 decades later, George passed, and that same coin was found again, in the bottom of a drawer, still unspent. Only now, it's become one of the most sought-after error coins in U.S. history. So what makes the 1965 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny so mysterious, and potentially valuable? In 1965, the U.S. Mint had just gone through a coin shortage and was transitioning coin compositions. To speed things up, they stopped putting mint marks on coins temporarily. So yes, all 1965 pennies lack a mint mark. A few coins from 1965 were mistakenly struck on older bronze planchets from 1964, or even using misdated dies, creating off-metal errors, double strikes, and even ghost dates. Some were struck with 1964 dies but labeled 1965, extremely rare and easily missed, and because so many people just spent them without knowing, only a few are known to exist. Let me tell you about Martha, a grandmother from Kansas. She'd been collecting pennies since the 50s. One day, she rolled up a bunch of coins for her church fundraiser, among them a pristine 1965 transitional error penny. Worth over $7,000 at auction today, she never knew, and neither did her family, until it showed up online, years later, in someone else's collection. Imagine the stories that coin could have told, had she only known to look. So, could you have one of these legendary coins? Here's what to check. Date must be 1965. No mint mark underneath the date, that's expected, but still check for any anomalies. Weighted, transitional errors might be struck on heavier 1964 bronze planchets, should weigh about 3.11 grams, not 2.5 g. Look for doubling, letters or numbers might appear blurry or shadowed, a sign of a double die, edges and surface, rough rims, off-center strikes, or ghost images can mean rare errors. If you find something that looks odd, don't clean it, instead send it to reputable graders like PCGS or NGC for professional authentication. Or take it to a trusted local coin dealer who knows how to spot transitional errors. That old jar on top of your fridge, the one your kids roll their eyes at, it might just hold your future, because sometimes, it's the quietest things, like a penny forgotten in a drawer, that carry the loudest stories. So take a second look. And if you love the thrill of history, mystery, and second chances, what if a single penny from 1952, the kind your father may have handed you at the corner store, could now be worth hundreds, or even thousands of dollars? Stick with me, because this isn't just any penny. This is a quiet piece of American history that many folks spent without ever knowing they were holding a treasure. Let me take you back to 1984. A retired railroad worker named Earl, living in Modesto, California, was clearing out an old shoebox tucked in the attic. Inside, faded letters, a rusted harmonica, and a dusty mason jar filled with pennies. Nothing special, or so he thought. He gave the coins to his grandson to take to the bank, but later that evening, a coin caught the boy's eye. It had a tiny S beneath the date, and something looked off. That penny, a 1952 S Lincoln wheat cent, wasn't just old. It was unusually struck. That one coin ended up fetching over $1,000 at auction, all because of a subtle error and some sharp eyes. Most folks never knew the 1952 S could be valuable, but Earl's story reminds us that sometimes, treasure hides in the most ordinary places. So what makes the 1952 S Lincoln penny so special? It was minted in San Francisco, one of the 3 operating mints at the time. While 137 million of these were made, which seems like a lot, very few survive in pristine condition today, especially with sharp, full details. Even more intriguing, some coins from this run have minor doubling errors or weak strikes, which can drive the value up dramatically. If you find a red, uncirculated 1952 S with strong detail and luster, you're not holding pocket change, you're holding a collector's dream. Now here's the heartbreaking part: too many of these coins were spent unknowingly at diners, barbershops, and school canteens. Imagine handing a rare penny to buy a bubble gum cigar, and decades later, learning it was worth a week's wages, or more. I knew a woman from Oregon who kept a coffee can of wheat pennies under her sink. Her nephew cashed them in for face value when she passed. Among them, a near-mint 1952 S red gem. Gone, for 1 cent. Don't let history, or value, slip through your fingers like that. Look for the small S mint mark just below the year. That San Francisco color matters. A bright copper red color with original luster equals higher value. Look closely for doubling on letters like Liberty or In God We Trust, and remember, never clean the coin. That can destroy its value instantly. If you think you found one, don't guess. You can submit it to PCGS or NGC for professional grading, or visit a reputable local coin dealer who understands error coins and wheat cents. These folks can help you really understand what you have: that old mason jar on your shelf, that tin box in your father's garage. They're not just clutter. They're time capsules, and maybe, just maybe, they're holding your next great discovery. What if a single penny from your childhood, one you tossed into a piggy bank without a second thought, could be worth thousands today? It sounds impossible, right? But there's a tiny copper coin, minted in 1961, that's turning heads, and emptying junk drawers. And if you've got one with a little D under the date, this story is especially for you. Let me tell you about Margaret. She was cleaning out her late husband's old army footlocker, full of letters, medals, and tucked inside a rusted Band-Aid tin, pennies. Dozens of them. She almost gave them away, but one caught her eye, a 1961 penny with a D beneath the year. It reminded her of the year they bought their first home. The year he left for the service. Something about it felt special. That penny ended up being a rare double-die variety, valued at more than $4,500. She cried when she found out. Not because of the money, but because, in her words, it felt like he left me one last gift. So what makes the 1961 D Lincoln cent potentially valuable? Well, most were just everyday coins. Over 1.7 billion were minted in Denver that year. But, a tiny fraction came out with rare minting errors, specifically double die obverse, and die breaks that can turn a 1-cent coin into a collector's dream. Even coins in pristine uncirculated condition, with sharp details and no wear, are climbing in value among collectors. And if you happen to find one with strong luster and full original red color, you might just be holding history in your hand. Too many people have no idea. One man in Ohio once told me he used a whole coffee can full of 60s pennies, including dozens from 1961, to pay for a gas bill in the 80s. He said they were just old pennies. Some of those coins today could fetch hundreds. Maybe more. Once it's gone, it's gone. Here's what to check for in your own collection. Look for a small D below the date. For Denver, examine Liberty and In God We Trust. Any doubling? Lincoln's eye or ear. Look for odd shapes or shadows. Double die. The brighter and redder, the better. Uncirculated coins are worth far more. Check for die cracks, little raised lines or blobs of extra metal. Think you've got something special? Send your coin to PCGS or NGC, two of the most trusted grading services in the world. Or visit a reputable coin dealer. Don't clean it. Don't scratch it. Handle it by the edges only. Listen, that old coffee tin in the closet? The one your father tucked away, or the jar that sat beside Grandma's radio? It might hold more than just coins. It could hold memories, stories, and maybe a little fortune. Subscribe to Timeless Treasures. We help you find history hiding in plain sight, because sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest legacies. What if a single penny from your childhood, one you nearly forgot, could now be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars? That's not just wishful thinking. There's a coin, minted quietly in 1962, that's turning heads in the rare coin world. And if you're like most folks, there's a chance it's hiding in an old coffee can, a dusty drawer, or even your childhood piggy bank. Let me take you back. It was 1978. A retired mailman named Earl, living in Cheyenne, Wyoming, was helping his granddaughter with a school coin collection project. He reached into an old fruitcake tin, one he hadn't touched since the early 60s, and pulled out a dull, brown penny. Nothing special, he thought. Just a 1962 D Lincoln cent, but his granddaughter noticed something strange. The D was slightly off-center, and Lincoln's face looked almost doubled. Earl laughed it off and nearly tossed it into the spend pile. But something made him hold onto it. 20 years later, that very coin, now authenticated, sold for over $4,500 at auction, and Earl? He never spent another penny without flipping it over first. So what makes the 1962 D Lincoln 1-cent coin so special? It's not just the date, it's the combination of factors. 1962 was a year of mass production, with over 1.7 billion pennies minted in Denver, hence the D mint mark. But within that sea of copper coins, a tiny handful were struck with errors, double dies, off-center minting, or die cracks that made Lincoln's features distorted. These flaws, invisible to most, made these coins extremely rare and incredibly valuable to collectors today, and even a normal 1962 D penny in pristine condition, known as red uncirculated, can fetch $50 to $300 or more from the right buyer. Let me tell you about Helen. She inherited a jar of coins from her father, a quiet man who had saved every penny since the 1950s. Thinking it was junk, Helen brought the whole jar to the bank in exchange for cash. Weeks later, her brother, a coin enthusiast, asked to see the collection. Too late. Among those rolled coins, most likely a valuable 1962 D with a die clash error. A coin that could have helped pay for her grandson's tuition. Moments like that, they can't be undone. If you're wondering whether you have one of these hidden gems, here's what to check. Look closely for doubling in Lincoln's face, date, or lettering. Check for off-center strikes or unusual cracks/lines on the coin. Color counts. Bright, red-toned coins with full detail are worth far more. Think you've got something special? Don't guess. Get it professionally graded. Reach out to trusted experts like PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company, or visit a reputable local dealer, not just a pawn shop. They'll tell you what you really have, and what it's really worth. You know that old jar in the kitchen? The one you haven't touched since your kids were in school? It might not just be holding coins, it might be holding memories, mistakes, and maybe, just maybe, your future. What if a forgotten penny from 1966, yes, the same kind you might have dropped on the floor as a child, could be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars today? You might have spent one. You might still have one, tucked away in an old coffee can, a dusty drawer, or the back of Grandpa's desk. But here's the twist: not every 1966 penny is created equal. Let me take you back to a quiet Sunday in 1998. A man named Harold, a retired mailman from Ohio, was sorting through a mason jar of pennies his father left him. Nothing fancy, until one coin caught the light just right. No mint mark. Crisp detail. 1966. He didn't think much of it, but something told him to keep it aside. Fast forward to 2020. His grandson, curious about coin collecting, took it to a local expert. That single penny, the same one Harold almost spent on a gumball decades ago, turned out to be worth over $4,000. Why? Let's dig in. Most 1966 Lincoln pennies were minted without a mint mark. That's normal. But here's where it gets interesting. 1966 was a transition year. After the coin shortage in the early 60s, the U.S. Mint suspended mint marks to discourage coin hoarding, but occasionally, errors slipped through, like double dies, off-center strikes, and ultra-high-grade coins with preserved luster. The key? Condition and anomaly. A pristine, uncirculated 1966 penny with a rare error, even without a mint mark, can fetch serious cash from collectors and auction houses. I heard from a woman named Darlene, 72, from Georgia. She told me how her late husband used to toss pennies into a jar every evening after work. One day, she took them to the bank to cash them in. A few months later, After watching a show like this one, she realized one of those pennies, the shiny 1966 she remembered vividly, might have been worth hundreds. Gone. Folks, don't let a simple cent be the coin that got away. Date must be 1966, no mint mark underneath the date, high quality condition, little to no wear, original red or red-brown luster. Look for errors, doubled lettering, misaligned edges, or off-center designs. Reverse side, check for crisp Lincoln Memorial detail and no fading. If you think you found one, don't guess, get it professionally graded. Send it to PCGS or NGC, two of the most trusted grading services in the world. Or visit a reputable local coin dealer, one with experience in error coins and high-grade cents. That old jar in your kitchen? The one no one's touched in years, it might just hold your future, or a forgotten piece of your past. Don't let history slip through your fingers. What if a penny from 1968, something you might have handed to a grandchild for candy, could now be worth hundreds, even thousands, and you didn't even know it? This isn't fantasy. It's real. And it might be sitting in that dusty change jar in your kitchen drawer. Let me take you back to a chilly afternoon in 1985. Harold, a retired machinist from Colorado, was sorting coins with his grandson after church. Among the usual nickels and wheat pennies, one dull copper coin caught his eye, a 1968 Lincoln penny with a faint D below the date. Harold smiled, saying, "Nothing special, just Denver mint." He gave it to his grandson and thought no more of it. 30 years later, that same grandson, now in his 40s, watched an old coin collector's video, and remembered the coin. He dug through his childhood cigar box, found it, and sent it in for grading. The verdict: a rare 1968 D with an unusual twist. Worth nearly $3,000. Sometimes, history waits for you to remember it. So what makes the 1968 D Lincoln penny so special? It's not the date alone. It's the error. In rare cases, the Denver Mint accidentally reused an old proof die, the kind meant only for shiny collector coins, at the regular factory. That means some everyday 1968 D pennies ended up with sharper details, frosted portraits, and even a missing designer's initials, all signs of something that wasn't supposed to happen. It's a mistake. A whisper of history, and it made certain coins incredibly valuable today. I've spoken with folks who once had one. "I remember that sharp-looking penny," one woman said, "but I gave it to the bank with the rest of the change from my late husband's drawer." Her voice cracked as she realized what might have been lost. It's not just about money, it's about memories, moments, and missed chances. Don't let that happen to you. Date must be 1968. Mint mark should be a small D under the date, Denver Mint. Flip the coin, look closely for missing FG initials, designer Frank Gasparo's initials near the Lincoln Memorial. Check the shine. Does it have mirror-like fields and frosted features? It might be a proof die error. High detail, especially in Lincoln's beard, hair, and the lettering. To know for sure, send your coin to trusted grading services like PCGS or NGC. Or visit a local certified coin dealer. Bring your reading glasses and take your time. A 10-minute look could reveal a $1,000 mistake. What if I told you there's a penny, yes, a single copper coin, that could be worth thousands, but you might have spent it on gum back in '75? Or worse, it could still be sitting in a jar at your grandma's house, waiting to be found. I remember an old man from Kansas, name was Walter. Every evening after supper, he'd sit by the fireplace with his jar of loose change. He wasn't rich. Raised during the Dust Bowl, he counted every penny, literally. One day, sorting through those coins, he came across a 1968 Lincoln penny with no mint mark. He kept it, thinking it was just another oddity from his coin hunting days. Years later, his grandson found it, and nearly threw it into a Coinstar machine, until a local coin shop told him what he really had. A mistake. A rarity. A little slice of minting mystery. So here's the truth: the 1968 no mint mark Lincoln penny is not supposed to exist, at least, not like this. In 1968, pennies were minted in 3 places: Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint didn't mark their coins, that was normal, but in 1968, proof pennies, high-quality coins not meant for circulation, were only made in San Francisco and should have had an S mint mark. That's where things get interesting. A few proof quality Pennies without the S somehow slipped out into the world, a minting error so rare, it turned an ordinary coin into a collector's treasure. Some experts believe these were early test strikes or unmarked proofs. Either way, they're incredibly scarce. One graded examples sold for over $12,000. Yes, $12,000 for a penny. But here's the heartbreak: a woman once called into a coin shop, said she remembered seeing a 1968 penny that looked shinier than the rest. She spent it on a soda. Decades ago, never knowing what she had. Just imagine, that shiny little coin could have bought her grandchildren's first car. Don't let that be your story. Start checking your change, and here's exactly what to look for: no mint mark at all, and the coin must look proof-like, very shiny, mirror-like finish, sharp, clean edges. Detailed Lincoln. Deep cameo contrast, Lincoln appears frosted while the background is mirrored. Condition matters, these were never meant to circulate. If it looks uncirculated or pristine, take a closer look. If you think you've got one, don't guess, submit it to PCGS or NGC, top coin grading companies that can certify and authenticate your find. Or visit a reputable coin dealer, someone with experience handling mint errors and proof coins. That dusty coin jar in your attic, that drawer in your old roll-top desk. It might just hold a forgotten piece of American history, or your retirement fund. So take a moment, look, remember the value of small things, of what we toss aside, and what we hold on to. And hey, if you love stories like this, subscribe to Timeless Treasures, where we help you find history hiding in plain sight. Drop a comment if you've ever found a strange coin. You never know, it might be worth more than you think. What if a single penny from 1967, the same year Elvis married Priscilla, and America raced to the moon, could be worth thousands today, and you've had it sitting in a jar for 50 years? Let me take you back for a moment. Picture a quiet Sunday morning in 1985. An old man named Harold, retired Navy, sits at his kitchen table with a magnifying glass, sorting through pennies from a coffee tin. It was something he and his wife used to do together before she passed, just a little ritual, for fun. That morning, something caught his eye: a 1967 Lincoln penny. No mint mark. Seemed ordinary. But something felt different. He kept it, tucked away in a velvet pouch, convinced it was special. Decades later, his grandson brings it into a coin show. The appraiser stares at it, then calls over a second expert. Turns out, that ordinary penny was anything but. Now here's the truth. Most 1967 Lincoln pennies were struck without a mint mark. That's normal. The U.S. Mint temporarily suspended mint marks that year to discourage coin hoarding during the coin shortage. So why do collectors care about this coin at all? Because in rare cases, certain 1967 pennies show striking errors, unusual die varieties, or have been preserved in proof-like condition that never should have reached the public. Some have off-center strikes, double dies, or unusually sharp detail. And because they blend in so well, they often go completely unnoticed. One clean, rare example, uncirculated or with a die error, can be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars. Let me tell you a hard truth. I met a woman once at a coin show who had one, an absolutely pristine 1967 penny. She'd had it in her drawer since childhood. Her brother once used it to scratch a lottery ticket and tossed it back in the jar. By the time she brought it to me, it was too worn to grade. Lost to time, she said. If I'd only known back then. That's why I'm telling you now. Want to know if your penny could be valuable? Here's what to look for: no mint mark below the date. This is normal for 67. Check for oddities like off-center strikes doubling in God We Trust, or Liberty, razor-sharp detail or proof like shine. Best condition wins. The less wear, the more it's worth. Think you've got a winner? Don't guess. Get it certified. Contact trusted graders like PCGS or NGC, or take it to a local reputable coin dealer. Just make sure they're experienced in U.S. coinage, and always get a second opinion. That old jar in your kitchen? The one that's been there since your kids were small? It might just hold your future. History doesn't always wear a crown. Sometimes, it's copper brown, sitting in silence, waiting to be seen. What if a penny from 1968, one you could have spent on bubblegum, is now worth more than $25,000. Sounds impossible, right? But one tiny copper coin from your past could change your future. And it might be hiding in your change jar right now. Let me take you back to a quiet Sunday morning in Ohio, 1994. A retired postal worker named Harold was going through his late wife's belongings. Tucked away in an old ceramic mug, the kind that used to sit on kitchen counters across America, he found a handful of pennies. One looked different. Sharper. Shinier. The date read 1968, and just beneath it, an S mint mark. Harold almost tossed it in with the others, almost, but something stopped him. A feeling. A memory. That penny felt like a piece of time itself. Little did he know, he was holding one of the rarest and most mysterious Lincoln cents ever struck. Now here's where it gets fascinating. The 1968 S Lincoln penny was minted in San Francisco. That's what the S stands for. Most of these were regular, unremarkable coins. But a small number were mistakenly struck with the design intended for proof coins, coins meant only for collectors. Even rarer, a few slipped through quality control with sharp, mirror-like fields and deep cameo contrast. These are proof coins in circulation, a near impossible occurrence. Some collectors believe mint workers intentionally let a few escape, a quiet rebellion, or perhaps just an accident. Either way, that mystery only adds to their legend. One such coin, graded PR 68 deep cameo, fetched over $25,000 at auction. Now here's the heartbreak. In 2011, a man in Michigan unknowingly used one of these rare 1968 S-proof cents to buy a cup of coffee. A week later, the shop owner cashed in her coins at the bank. The penny disappeared, likely tossed into a coin-counting machine, never to be seen again. That's $25,000, gone in the blink of an eye. Don't let that happen to you. If you're sorting through old pennies, here's what to check for. Mint mark. Look for a small S under the date. Mirror-like surface, a shiny, reflective finish. Frosty contrast on Lincoln's portrait. That cameo. Look, no signs of wear. These coins should look nearly untouched. Even a regular 1968 S in great condition can be worth more than face value. But those deep cameo proofs? That's where the treasure lies. Think you found one? Don't guess, get it graded. Send it to PCGS or NGC, two of the most trusted coin grading services in the world. A certified grade can turn a shiny penny into a five-figure payout. Or, if you're unsure, reach out to a local numismatist, a coin expert, for help. So the next time you hear that familiar clink of change on the counter, take a closer look, because that old jar in your kitchen, it might just hold your future. What if a single penny from your childhood, the kind that slipped through your fingers 1,000 times, could be worth tens of thousands of dollars today? That's not a dream. That's the 1969 D Lincoln penny. And you just might have won. In 1993, a retired railroad worker in Colorado stumbled across an old cigar box in his late brother's garage. Inside, tucked between yellowed stamps and war ration coupons, were dozens of pennies. One caught his eye. The date read 1969, with a tiny D beneath it. He didn't think much of it, just another relic from a different time. That coin, later appraised by a local dealer, turned out to be one of the rarest mistakes in U.S. mint history. It sold at auction for over $35,000, and he almost gave it to his grandson to use in a gumball machine. So what is it that makes this tiny copper coin so special? It's a minting error, the kind that slipped past inspection and became a collector's dream. In 1969, some pennies struck at the Denver Mint were double-die obverse, meaning the lettering on the front, especially Liberty and In God We Trust, appears doubled, like a ghost image. But here's the twist: legitimate double-die 1969 D pennies were never supposed to exist. Experts believe only a few escaped into circulation before being caught. Today, authentic 1969 D double-die pennies are worth anywhere from $25,000 to over $75,000, depending on condition. People have unknowingly spent these coins on soda, candy, and bus fare for over 50 years. In fact, a documented case from 2011 tells of a woman who used one to pay for a cup of coffee, not realizing she'd handed away what could have covered a year of rent. These mistakes don't last forever. As the years go by, more are lost, or forgotten. Date must be 1969. Look for the D mint mark under the date. Check Liberty and In God We Trust. Look for clear doubling in the letters back of the coin. The Lincoln Memorial should appear normal. The doubling is only on the front. If you think you found one, don't guess. Get it verified. Send it to PCGS or NGC, two trusted grading companies. Or take it to a reputable coin dealer in your area for a first look. A little effort could change your story forever. That dusty jar on your dresser, the one that's followed you through 5 moves and 2 grandchildren, it might just hold the penny that pays for your next chapter. A piece of history. A once forgotten treasure. What if a single penny from your childhood, tossed in a drawer and forgotten, could be worth over $18,000 today? Yes, you heard that right. A single 1970 D Lincoln penny, the kind you may have used to buy bubblegum or flip for luck, is now one of the rarest and most mysterious coins ever discovered. Let me tell you a story. Back in the late 1990s, a retired teacher named Harold from Colorado was sorting through an old coffee tin of pennies he'd saved since the 1960s. It was a quiet evening, the kind where nostalgia hangs heavy in the air. Among the dusty copper coins, one caught his eye. It looked off. The date read 1970, but the coin didn't quite match the others. Little did Harold know, he was holding a 1970 D Lincoln cent struck on a 1941 Canadian penny, a minting mistake so rare, experts could count known examples on one hand. That humble cent sold at auction for over $18,000. So, what makes this coin so special? In 1970, at the Denver Mint, a mistake occurred. A 1941 Canadian penny planchet, a blank coin, somehow made its way into the machinery meant for striking U.S. pennies. The result? A 1970 D Lincoln cent struck on foreign metal, slightly smaller than usual, with a thinner edge and a faint ghost of the Canadian design underneath. This is no ordinary error. It's what's called a wrong planchet error, and it's one of the rarest you'll ever hear about. Many people never realize what they have. There was a man in Kansas who unknowingly used one of these rare pennies to buy a soda at a vending machine in 2005. The machine spat it out, rejected, so he tossed it in the change return tray and walked away. That coin was later found, authenticated, and sold for a life-changing amount. Can you imagine losing thousands because you didn't know what to look for? Look for a small D below the year. For Denver it might be slightly smaller or thinner than a regular penny. Look at the coin's edge. Does it feel odd or thinner than usual? Sometimes, traces of the original Canadian design are barely visible underneath. If you think you've got something special, don't guess. Verify. Send your coin to PCGS, Professional Coin Grading Service, or NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Company. Or take it to a certified rare coin dealer in your area. Do not clean it. Handling it wrong can ruin its value. That old jar in your kitchen? The one you haven't touched in years, it might just hold your future. What if a single penny from 1971, the same kind you might have tossed into a fountain, could be worth thousands today? Yes, that dusty little copper coin sitting in your kitchen drawer might just be one of the rarest treasures hiding in plain sight. Let me tell you a story. In 1994, an elderly gentleman from Ohio was sorting through a shoebox of old coins left behind by his late wife. They used to collect pennies together during long road trips in the 70s. One evening, while watching the sunset on their porch, he pulled out a penny, no mint mark, dated 1971. It looked ordinary, but it wasn't. Later, that same penny was appraised at over $4,000. Why? Because it held a secret. This wasn't just pocket change. It was a relic, a mistake from the U.S. Mint, a rare oversight that turned into a collector's dream. So what makes the 1971 no mint mark Lincoln cent so valuable? Here's the truth. In 1971, most pennies were minted in Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S, with San Francisco typically producing proof coins. But a small batch of 1971 cents minted without a mint mark, and showing unusual features like double dies, off-center strikes, or struck on leftover proof planchets, started surfacing years later. The key, it's not just that it's missing a mint mark. It's the errors and oddities that make these coins so valuable. Collectors call them ghost cents, common at first glance, but with hidden quirks that set them apart. One man, a retired teacher from Michigan, unknowingly spent a rare 1971 error cent at a gas station in 2003. It ended up on eBay weeks later, selling $4.7,200. He found out when his grandson, a coin enthusiast, saw the listing and recognized the coin from his grandfather's collection. The heartbreak was real. Don't let that be your story. Here's how you can tell if you might have one of these rare 1971 pennies. Date must be 1971. No mint mark under the date. Philadelphia issue. Check for doubling, especially in Liberty or In God We Trust. Look at Lincoln's bust. Any unusual thickness or shadowing could mean a double die. Flip the coin. Check the reverse. The Lincoln Memorial. For any blur, doubling, or striking flaws, weight matters. Some rare ones were struck on leftover 1970 S-proof planchets. What if a single penny from your childhood, tucked away in a dusty jar, could be worth hundreds, or even thousands, today? Imagine finding one in your attic and having the chance to change everything. Picture this. In a small Midwestern town in the early 2000s, an elderly gentleman named George stumbled upon a glass jar filled with pennies in his late wife's belongings. Among the rusted coins was one that didn't belong. A crisp Lincoln cent dated 1971, minted in San Francisco and seldom seen in circulation. He thought, it's just a penny. But when he finally showed it to a collector decades later, the story changed his life. To George, it was once just pocket change from his youth. Now it wasn't just a coin. It was a whispered echo of history, love, and possibilities. Here's why the 1971 Lincoln 1 cent is so rare and coveted. The S mint mark indicates it was struck in San Francisco, often as a proof coin not meant for circulation. Very few were produced as proofs in that year, meaning you rarely see them in civilian collections. Some specimens show sharp details or even minor die variations, making them extra collectible. To someone holding that penny, it's not about the 1 cent face value anymore. It's about rarity, story, and potential worth. Hundreds or even low thousands in good condition. Many people have unknowingly spent or discarded valuable coins like these. I've heard of folks pouring jars of coins into coin rolls, assuming nothing special was mixed in, and later realizing they'd thrown away treasure. One collector told me, I used it to pay for a parking meter. I'd never seen it again. Don't let that be your missed opportunity. If you spot one that matches, don't guess, get it professionally graded. Submit it to trusted services like PCGS or NGC, or consult a reputable local coin dealer. They'll authenticate whether it's truly a 1971 S-proof penny and estimate its grade, which determines value. That old jar in your kitchen, it might just hold your future. Every coin has a story, and sometimes the most powerful ones are hiding in plain sight. If you've held this penny, or think you might, don't let it slip away. Subscribe to Timeless Treasures. We help you uncover history hiding in plain sight. Your past may just be your most valuable discovery yet. What if I told you a single penny from 1971 could be worth thousands today, and it might be sitting forgotten in your junk drawer right now? Hello, friends. This isn't just another coin video. This is a story about memories, missed chances, and a tiny copper secret hiding in plain sight. I'll never forget the day a retired schoolteacher named Mr. Ellis walked into a coin show in Des Moines. He wasn't there to sell, just browsing, looking to kill time on a rainy afternoon. But something made him pull a small coin envelope from his coat pocket. He'd kept a strange-looking penny since the early 80s, not for value, just for how it looked. His granddaughter once used it in a craft project, but he tucked it away, saying, "Feels lucky somehow." That penny? A 1971 Lincoln cent with a rare twist. Collectors at the table went silent. One man made him an offer right there for $4,000. Turns out, that penny had a story far bigger than Ellis ever imagined. So why is the 1971 Lincoln cent so special? Most of these pennies were struck in San Francisco as proof coins, highly polished, mirror-like pieces made for collectors, not for circulation. But here's the mystery: some escaped into the wild. And a few were struck without proper detail or ended up with double die errors, making them extremely valuable. And then there's the 1971 double die obverse, a holy grail for some collectors. If Liberty or the In God We Trust inscription looks doubled or blurry, you might be staring at a 4-figure coin that I once met a woman at a garage sale. She had an old coffee can of pennies. I offered her $10 for the whole thing, just for fun. She laughed, said her husband cashed in all the good ones years ago at the bank. She didn't know that just one 1971 S double die could have paid for the trip they never took to Alaska. 1 penny. Gone. Just like that. Don't let that be your story. If it looks mirror-like and ultra shiny, it may be a proof coin, worth even more. Don't trust your eyes alone, take it to a professional. Visit pcgs.com or ngccoin.com or stop by a local coin dealer for a quick look. Even better, take a clear photo and post on coin forums like CoinTalk or Reddit's r/coins for feedback. That old penny jar on your kitchen shelf, the one you've walked past 1,000 times? It might hold more than just coins, it might hold stories, surprises, maybe even your next vacation. Don't let history slip through your fingers. What if I told you that a single penny, just one, from 1972 could be worth hundreds, even thousands of dollars today, and it might be sitting in your junk drawer right now? Before you toss that old change, you might want to take a closer look. Because hidden among the millions is one very special coin that collectors like me have spent a lifetime searching for. Back in 1993, an old man named Harold, a retired railroad worker from Indiana, was sorting through a dusty coffee can full of pennies he'd kept since the 70s. He'd always saved them, not for value, but for the memories: road trips with his wife, Halloween candy change, bubble gum machines. One day, while watching the rain tap against the window, Harold spotted something strange: a 1972 penny. Nothing fancy, but when he looked closer, no mint mark. The D for Denver wasn't there. Not even the S for San Francisco. Just Lincoln's quiet stare and the unmistakable date, 1972. He almost tossed it aside, until his grandson, a coin collector, gasped and said, "Grandpa, this could be worth something." And he was right. That 1972 no mint mark Lincoln penny from the Philadelphia Mint isn't just another coin, it's a legend among collectors, especially in its double die obverse variety. In 1972, the U.S. Mint made an error during production. Some pennies ended up with a doubled image on the front: Lincoln's profile, the word "Liberty," and the date all appear slightly doubled to the naked eye. But the real kicker? No mint mark. That means it was struck in Philadelphia, and these error coins were never meant to be noticed. Only a few thousand of these slipped into circulation, and most people never knew. There are whispers in the collecting community of a woman who spent one at a corner store in the late 80s, to buy a pack of gum. She had no idea she'd just handed over a coin worth more than $1,000. And even today, people unknowingly drop them into Coinstar machines, give them as change at garage sales, or worse, toss them into fountains. Every one lost is a piece of history, gone forever. Want to know if you have the rare 1972 no mint mark penny? Here's what to check: date must be 1972, no earlier, no later. No mint mark under the date. If you see a D or S, it's not the one. Check for doubling, especially on the word "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date. Condition matters. The better shape it's in, the more it's worth. Think you found one? Don't rush to sell it just yet. Send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. They'll authenticate it, grade its condition, and seal it in a protective case. That's how real value is determined. Or better yet, visit a trusted coin dealer near you. But make sure they know their stuff. Not all that glitters is gold, or copper. In this case, that old jar in your kitchen, that shoebox in the attic, it might just hold your future. A forgotten treasure from a time when gas was 36 cents, and pennies meant something more than change. What if I told you a single penny, yes, that 1-cent coin tossed in your junk drawer since 1973, could be worth thousands today? Or even more, if it's missing one tiny detail that most people never even notice. Let me tell you a little story. A man in Pennsylvania, retired, quiet life, loved gardening, was sorting through his late father's coin jar. Just an old Folgers can packed with pennies from the 60s and 70s. He wasn't a collector, just sentimental. His dad used to say, "Save every penny. You never know what it'll be worth someday." He didn't expect much. But one coin caught his eye. A 1973 Lincoln cent, but something felt off. No mint mark. Clean as a whistle. He almost threw it back in, until his grandson, a coin nerd, looked closer. That penny? Turned out to be a rare no mint mark variety, one that experts still argue about today. It sold quietly, but trust me, it changed his retirement. So what's the big deal about the 1973 Lincoln penny with no mint mark? In 1973, most pennies were made in Philadelphia, no mint mark, Denver, D, and San Francisco, S. But proof pennies, higher quality coins for collectors, were usually made in San Francisco with an S mint mark. Somehow, a small number of proof-like 1973 pennies were struck with no mint mark, and circulated by mistake. Some experts believe these were struck from polished dies or test strikes. Others think it was just a mint error, but either way, it's incredibly rare. If you find one with sharp details, glossy fields, and no S or D, you might be holding something special. There's a heartbreaking story that still haunts collectors. A woman in Ohio brought her childhood coin collection to a garage sale. Old lunchboxes full of wheat pennies, buffalo nickels, and yes, a gleaming 1973 penny that looked different. The buyer gave her $20 for the whole lot. She was just glad to clear out space, that penny alone. Later authenticated. Valued at over $4,000. She never knew. If you want to know whether you have one of these rare 1973 no mint mark pennies, here's what to check. No mint mark under the date, blank space. Not D or S, proof like shine or mirror finish. Not your average dull penny. Sharp, crisp details on Lincoln's hair, jacket, and the Lincoln Memorial. Flip it over. Look for designer initials, VDB, at the base of Lincoln's shoulder. Think you've got one? Don't guess. Send it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC, or take it to a trusted coin dealer in your area. They'll examine it under magnification and can confirm if it's the real deal.